Hey guys, welcome to a new tutorial. Today we're going to be going through how to automate sending emails with Python and using a spreadsheet. So automating sending emails from a spreadsheet, it's a pretty common task for many people. And the way that we're going to do it today is one way to do it. This is the way that we do it, and we found that it's a pretty straightforward way for someone to learn. But if you Google around, you'll find a lot of ways to do it. So I just want you to keep that in mind that this is just our way to do it. Okay, so let's just get started. First, if you don't know how to use the terminal in Python or how to read and write spreadsheets using Python and Pandas, then in our description, please go through our first tutorial of reading and writing spreadsheets. Everything is kind of influenced off that. So complete that first before you come to this. Okay, then we're going to download a file, and the download link is also in the description, so please download that and save it in a folder. So I've saved it in this email tutorial folder. The file is called email list, and it's a pretty self-explanatory file. There are the usual suspects for columns: your name, email, the subject, and the message. So this is what you need to get started with, but obviously if you have more columns, that's fine. You can modify the code as it is, and I'll point that out to you as we go along. Okay, so if once we're done with that, we're going to open up a text editor. I have Adam here, and we're going to save this script, and I'm going to call it email send.py. Okay, cool. So let's get started. The full code is in the description if you want to follow along. Okay, so the first thing to do is to import the libraries that we'll use. And the first library is Pandas, and we're going to be using this to read our spreadsheets. The second one is smtplib. This is the one that's going to help us send the emails. Okay, so once we have imported these libraries, now we're going to specify our credentials. So let me give it your name. This will be the name that we'll send out. And if you guys are Office fans, it's a little nod to one of the scenes in The Office. Okay, obviously change this here to your actual name. Now we're going to specify the email that you're going to want to send from. And I'm using a Gmail extension, but feel free to use whatever email that you think is good. The two caveats around that is that, one, you must know, and we'll get to this in a little bit, the SMTP code of the email that you're sending. And the second is that your email provider can't restrict you sending emails. So you need to make sure that whatever that email provider is, if it's your company, there's no blocking on external scripts sending and logging in from your account. Okay, so now we've specified our credential. Let's get to the server part. So in this case, we're going to create our local server, and this is what's going to help us send the email. So this is where we get the smtplib library. And we're going to call this method from it called smtp SSL. SSL is secure protocol. And this is what's going to send it over HTTPS. Okay, so if you're using Gmail, this will be simple. You can do smtp.gmail.com. And then now we're going to give the port number, which in Gmail's case is 465. And if you have a different email provider, I'll provide a link in the article that goes with this tutorial where you can go to get that for different popular domains. If it's your own domain, then you have to talk to your IT or someone to figure it out. So just check that out to get the smtplib. And this is the config that you have to do this part. After this, it's the tutorial is going to go based on the file. These are the system variables, and this is where you might run into errors. So make sure that you get through this part before you do anything else. Okay, now we're going to call a method ehlo, and we're going to log in. So if you have not allowed your email provider access to do this, then your login will fail. So in this case for Gmail, you actually have to allow your Gmail account to be accessed by less secure apps, which will be this. So to do that, I've also provided a link, and again, it will differ based on what the email provider is, but this is a very easy place to get errored out in. So make sure that you have your email backend provide that authentication. Okay, so now that we're done with all the setup, the rest is based on the file. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna read in the file. Okay, now we're gonna read in all the 4 column names. We're gonna read in the name column as all names, the email, the subject, and the message. And since each row was an email that has to be sent, we're gonna now loop through any one of these arrays. So in our case, all of them are the same length, but if they weren't, then you would have to modify this part of the code. So I'm using Python syntax. What this does is the index value, it loops from 0 in this case to whatever I provide in this range function. So in this case, it's the length of all emails. So again, modify this to how your file is structured. Okay, and now for each one, we're gonna get the name, email, subject, message in each row. Okay, now we create the full email text that's gonna go out. So this needs to follow this format. And if you've ever seen your email message, you can tell that this is how it goes out. So what I'm gonna do is create a message, and I'm gonna leave placeholders for it in this Python syntax. And later on, we're gonna fill these in. Okay, just quick note, \n that means it's the next line. So in this case, even for your messages, if you ever have to create something with different line breaks, you must use the \n to get that. And this is the syntax format. So if you don't know this, what I'm doing is I'm going to fill those placeholders with variables. And depending on their place, that will be the variable that gets filled. So 0 will get filled by this first one. In this case, that's your name. 1 will get filled by the email that you're sending from. 2 will be filled by your name. 3 with your email that we just got for this record. And then we're going to do subject and message. Okay, cool. So now that we have created our email, now we're going to try to send it. So in this case, I'm going to use a try catch block. What this does is it will try this line of code first. And if this executes properly, great. Otherwise, it will execute the one after the catch block. So what this does is, in case there's error here, it won't stop your script just because it errored out on one of the emails. So you can play around with this, obviously. This is how I like to do it. Another thing in this is the send email method. It takes the email that you're sending to in a list. So if you can figure out, you can actually put multiple addresses here. We don't just need to pick one. If we were to send, for example, to like ABC, we can do it here and this will go to all of them. So this could be a good way to mass email. And this function send mail has a lot more parameters. So you can check that out. But in this simple case, we're just going to send it to email. However, we do have to enclose it in a list to send it out. Okay, so we do a full email. And if it succeeds, then we're going to print out a little statement. Email successfully sent to format the email, and we're going to give 2 line breaks. Now, if this catches an error, Then we're just going to print out the email that, did not get sent, just for our case. Okay. And finally, once everything is done, we're going to close the server. That'll be done by server.close. And this is how to send emails with Python. Okay, so let's run the script and see how it goes. So in this case, I've put dummy addresses. They should still send, but in my email, I will get what should not send. Actually, I forgot, I'm not using the correct username and password. Okay, so I'm going to change this to my right username and password. Okay, let's send it. And email to Tony Stark has sent, to Peralta99, to Rachel Green at ralph.edu successfully. So all three successfully sent. And if I look at my email right now, I should have gotten 3 failure to send emails because these don't really exist. And that's what happened. So in your case, they should send properly if you send them to, valid email addresses. I'm just going to recap real quickly the script. First, you have to give it your email and your password. Then depending on what email provider you're using, you're going to use that SMTP server name and the port to specify the server and to log in. And this is where most of your failure will probably occur. If it can't log in, that means there's something, either you've specified this wrong, the port is wrong, or from the backend of the server of that domain, you haven't been given permission to send emails from script like this. So check that out, troubleshoot that. Or it could be that your email and password are wrong. There are a lot of things that could go wrong in these 6 lines right here, or sorry, 5 lines right here. So just check that out if you're getting an error based on that. If you're not, then we proceed to here, read the file, read the different column names. We're going to loop through, get the appropriate variables, create a message. We're going to try sending the message. One caveat here is that this must be passed in a list. Either this will send or it won't send, depending on if it succeeded or not. And if it did, it will show you the error message here. The email could not be sent because error message. Okay. Thank you guys for watching and hope you keep loving spreadsheets.